Now, here is an awesome film loved by everybody who's seen it, but I don't think nearly enough people have seen it. 1981's Dragonslayer, directed and co written by Matthew Robbins, is not only a great high fantasy movie in a time before studios cowered away from high fantasy, but is also something of a technical marvel. The film stars Peter McNichol, who I think is terribly underrated and underappreciated. He plays Galen, a wizard's apprentice. Said wizard, Ulrich, is asked to join a group to stop a dragon that's terrorizing the nearby kingdom of Erland. The king has been sacrificing women to the dragon to keep it from all out attacking Erland, and some of the citizens have had enough and want the dragon gone. Ulrich challenges the citizens to test his power as a wizard by stabbing him with a knife. And he dies. So Galen ends up going in his place to face off against the dragon, Vermithrax Pejorative. What proceeds from there is a super fun fantasy movie with that very distinct 80s fantasy style. If you've seen the likes of Excalibur or Legend or Willow, you've got a fair idea of what you're going to be in for.
In the Dark Ages, fantasy was fact. Magic was a weapon. Love was a mystery. Adventure was everywhere. And heroes were needed. Because in the Dark Ages, dragons were real. Dragonslayer, rated PG.
Starts Friday, AFCO, Westwood, Hollywood, and a theater or a drive-in near you.
Galen and his band, led by Valerian, yes, that name should actually sound very familiar, and I will explain why in just a second, go on a hero's journey to slay the dragon, save the kingdom, and expose tyranny and corruption along the way. Corruption, you see, because the king of Erland has been making sure to keep his own daughter's name out of the sacrificial lottery, which doesn't really sit too well with everybody when they find out, including the princess herself. The king's foolhardy captain of the guard, Tyrion, adds a whole other level of confrontation by setting himself up as being at odds with Galen from the jump. Okay, yeah. So, George R.R. Martin basically lifted a bunch of stuff from this movie. That's how influential it is, despite being really underappreciated and relegated to cult status. Obviously, one of the main heroes of the movie, Valerian, had their name lifted and dropped into A Song of Ice and Fire as describing anything from the lost kingdom of Valyria. Captain Tyrion's name was borrowed, so to speak, and given to the now iconic character of Tyrion Lannister, also famously played by Peter Dinklage in the HBO adaptation. And the influence of Dragonslayer doesn't stop there. The likes of Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro, known for their love of fantasy, their own great works in fantasy, and their love of practical effects, count Dragonslayer as hugely important to them and their work. And for good reason. This was Industrial Light and Magic's very first non-Star Wars project, and they knocked it out of the park. Phil Tippett, a personal hero of mine and a master of creature creation and special effects, developed Vermithrax Pejorative and brought him to life in wide shots in a technique called Go Motion. Go Motion it's like a form of stop motion that incorporates a motion blur to kind of give more of a natural look and feel to something that's moving. It was used in really great effect in Empire Strikes Back with the AT-AT walkers and the Tauntauns on Hoth. In Dragonslayer, those techniques are cranked up to 11, and Vermithrax Pejorative moves seamlessly with shocking fluidity and speed, even in HD remasters of the film today. Couple that with excellent puppet work and a terrifying 16-foot hydraulic neck and head used for close-ups, and you've got the best dragon put to film up to that point. Or possibly ever, according to some, maybe myself included. The creature left everybody in absolute awe. Dragonslayer was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but it lost to Raiders of the Lost Ark because that was just ILM competing against itself, and nobody was better than ILM in the 80s. But for all the hype surrounding the dragon in the film, I don't want to overshadow the cast of Dragonslayer. Once again, Peter McNichol is excellent as Galen. He's hilarious, he's heroic, and he perfectly fills the shoes of a hero who's just in way over his head. This was McNichol's first feature film, believe it or not, and I think he really deserved a better career than just being known for Ghostbusters 2 and Ally McBeal. Caitlin Clark is great as Valerian, a take-charge, headstrong hero to contrast Galen's antics, and now legendary actor Ralph Richardson is hilarious in his supporting role as Ulrich the Wizard. It's an excellent band of actors playing an excellent band of heroes in what I think is a top-tier fantasy film of all time. Unfortunately, it just wasn't appreciated in its time, and it didn't even make back the budget in theaters. The biggest problem Dragonslayer faced was the aforementioned Raiders of the Lost Ark, which would totally rule the summer of 1981 and would become a freaking pop culture juggernaut. Next up was the fact that, much like Midnight Madness in the previous video in this series, Dragonslayer was actually a co-production with Disney, who ended up largely taking their name off of it, and they just kind of let Paramount handle the marketing and the distribution. I don't think a lot of people still to this day realize it's actually kind of sort of a Disney movie. And finally, it's kind of a strange film to quantify. This is a high fantasy movie made in a time of saturation of high fantasy movies that has as much blood and violence as it does comedy, and it also has some surprise boobs and butt. It never feels disjointed or totally inconsistent, but it was still a really hard sell for audiences at the time. But 80s fantasy movies by and large find their homes on VHS, and that's where the majority of people discovered this gem. It actually became something of a staple in the realm of home video rental and viewing, and it built up a fair audience. I still think it's criminally underappreciated though, and I think it's a film that everybody should see. And also, it's got a surprise cameo by pre-Return of the Jedi Ian McDiarmid in it. So yes, the Senate is in this movie, so go watch it right now. And that'll do it for this episode of Friday Night Rental. As always, be sure to rewind before you return and tell your friends you love them.